After hours of searching on a bitterly cold night, just as your hope is declining, you see it. A thin streak of pale green just above a mountain. But minutes later, delicate ribbons of colour dance across the Arctic sky in complete silence. The sky seems to explode in colour. This is what everyone wants to see. If you're curious about the Northern Lights in Norway, you are not alone. As a travel writer in Norway for almost 14 years now, I get a lot of questions about this natural phenomena. Whether you're planning your first aurora adventure or just dreaming of the Arctic sky, this is your complete guide to seeing the Northern Lights in Norway. In this video, I'll show you the best places to see them, the best times of year to go, and I'll answer your most common questions like, what do they actually look like? Just before we get started, please do check out lifeinnorway.net for much more on the Northern Lights and all things Norway in English. Now, let's go aurora hunting. What are the Northern Lights? The aurora borealis is a major tourist attraction for northern Norway. The internet is filled with photography and video, which has placed an aurora hunting trip top of so many people's bucket lists. In fact, people travel from as far away as Australia, America and Asia just to see the Northern Lights in Norway. But planning a trip to see them, it's not so easy. The lights are a natural attraction. They're not something like a theme park or a museum with opening hours. It's not something that can be displayed on demand. There is no set schedule. If you're hoping to see the aurora borealis in Norway, my advice is to learn as much as you can beforehand. That way, you'll be less likely to be disappointed and you'll be prepared for a great experience regardless of whether the lights come out to play. Watching this video is a great start. First things first, it helps to actually understand what's going on above you. The Northern Lights are caused by charged particles from the sun that come to Earth as part of what's called the solar wind. When these particles collide with gases in our atmosphere, they release energy in the form of light. It's as simple as that. Or sort of. This happens often. In fact, it happens year round. But to see them, we need the right conditions. We need to be in the polar regions, typically. We need dark skies, and we need clear skies. What do the Northern Lights really look like? Yes, the sky really can erupt into a party of colour above you. But this is rare. What's much more likely is you'll see a haze or a very pale stripe of green in the sky. If you're lucky, this will become a stronger green, and if you're luckier still, you might see that famous curtain movement. No two displays are ever the same. What the Northern Lights look like is one of the most common misconceptions about these trips, and it's the number one reason that people leave disappointed. So, know what to expect. Think of it like rain. If you've never heard of rain before, you'll have seen pictures of the torrential downpours. But rain, most commonly, is just a little shower. It's the same thing, just at a different intensity. It's sort of similar with the Northern Lights. On a recent winter cruise to northern Norway, I met a few guests who I showed my photos to, and they said, "But did you really see that with the naked eye?" It's a common question, and it's a fair question. And the answer is no, not really. Photos of the Northern Lights always exaggerate the colours and the brightness. Now that's not trickery, it's just how cameras work compared to how our eyes work. Unlike our eyes, cameras pick up faint light and colour even in the dark. You'll notice the same thing yourself if you photograph a city street at night. The colours will always look brighter on screen. Try some nighttime photography before going on your trip, and you'll start to get an idea of how this works. Another key factor is your own night vision. Now I'm told it can take up to 15 minutes for the human eye to fully adjust to the darkness. Many people pop their heads outside, take a look at the sky and go back in again. They have no chance of seeing even a moderately good aurora display, at least not to the extent that we do who've been outside for 10-15 minutes plus. That's exactly what those guests had done. We were looking at exactly the same thing, but I could appreciate it so much more because my eyes had adjusted to the darkness. Now in neither case, we were seeing what was on the photo, of course. On that same cruise, I was out on deck one night looking at the stars. Someone passed me by and asked what I was looking at. The stars, I said. They looked up and said they could only see 2 or 3 stars. I was looking at, well, hundreds. The difference, I'd been outside, away from light, from inside and away from the light of my phone for a good 10 minutes or so. Try it yourself. If you have a clear night where you are tonight, head outside, see if you can see some stars. Stay outside for 10 minutes and you'll see the difference. It's really quite striking. So yes, the lights are real, they are there, but no, they don't look as intense as they do on camera. If you're going aurora hunting, put your phone away to begin with. Let your eyes adjust to the dark and let the magic happen. The best places to go. Let's talk locations. Firstly, there is no guarantee, no matter what the marketing material will say. The Northern Lights are a natural phenomenon, and they are not a guaranteed nightly show. But there are ways to stack the odds in your favour. I've seen the aurora from many places across Norway, but your best bet, of course, is northern Norway, specifically areas above the Arctic Circle. But don't think you have to be all the way at the north of Norway to see the lights. That's not quite how it works. The aurora oval covers much of northern Norway. In fact, inland areas of Finnmark, such as Kautokeino or Karasjok, often offer better viewing conditions because there tends to be more clouds at the coastline and there's drier weather inland. However, they can be much colder, especially in midwinter. So if you are heading inland, you need to be prepared. Wherever you go, the single most important tip is to get away from light pollution. Even small towns can produce enough artificial light to really dilute a weak aurora display. That said, I still recommend 2 northern cities to base yourself in, Tromsø and Alta. Why? Because they offer so much more than just aurora hunting. In Tromsø especially, there's plenty to do during the day, like museums, Arctic Cathedral concerts, and cafes to warm up in. Both cities also offer fantastic winter activities like dog sledding and snowmobiling. And yes, I've seen great Northern Lights shows from the city centres of both Tromsø and Alta, but for the best experience you will want to leave the city lights behind. So I recommend staying in one of these 2 cities for the convenience and the daytime activities, and then heading out in search of clear skies in the evening, whether that's independently or on a Northern Lights hunt. When to go? Darkness and clear skies, that's what you need. And that's why summer is a no-go in northern Norway. It's just not dark enough. The best months, typically, are September and October, and February and March, sometimes the earliest weeks of April as well. These months tend to offer the best combination of enough dark hours with a better chance of clearer skies. That said, you can get clear skies in December and January. It's just that the weather is a lot more unpredictable at that time of year, so allow some extra days in the north if those are your preferred months of travel. Also, September and March, as I say, the weather can be bad, so don't think that because I'm saying these are the best months that you're definitely going to see the lights. You're just increasing your chances, that's all. Also, a word on time. Yes, it needs to be dark, and you can see the aurora any time it's dark. It's often said that 10 PM to 2 AM are the best times to see the Northern Lights, and statistically that might be true. There is a reason tour guides talk of midnight magic. But if you're traveling in late November, early December, for example, when it gets dark from 2, 3 o'clock, you can absolutely see the Northern Lights in the late afternoon. The earliest I've seen them is 4:15, and it was a really good display sailing north along the Norwegian coastline. Finally, don't just come for one night. I do meet tourists who come all this way to northern Norway and they're just staying for one night, assuming they're going to see the aurora. That's not how it works. Ideally, you need to be spending at least 3 nights in the aurora zone, preferably a few more, to give yourself multiple chances to catch a display in the case of bad weather. Some guided tours will offer a free tour the next day if the aurora doesn't show. So by staying an extra few nights, you're giving yourself a buffer and also saving yourself a bit of money. Look for tours that offer this service. Do Northern Lights apps work? A lot of the simple Northern Lights apps focus on what's called the KP index. But here's the thing, the KP index doesn't matter so much here in Northern Norway. You get great displays even with a low KP index. We're under the auroral oval in Northern Norway, and that means that even a weak KP, it's still right overhead. What matters most in Northern Norway is not the KP index, it's the cloud cover. No clouds, you've got a good chance. Cloudy sky, no chance. It's as simple as that. That's why I always recommend checking the cloud forecast first before worrying about any of the Aurora apps. Personally, I use windy.com. It's a great free service available as a website or an app, and it will show you some really interesting information on the cloud cover and the expected changes for any location through the evening, and in fact, the next few evenings ahead. Now, don't rely on it 100%. Cloud cover is difficult to predict. A simple change in the wind can change everything. But it is useful to get a feel for whether you're looking at heavy cloud cover in one location or patchy clouds in another, for example. Now, there are apps that use scientific data to provide more real-time predictions. My recommendation, although it is on the technical side, is Glendale. It's fantastic once you get the hang of it, but be warned, it is pretty technical, so expect a bit of a learning curve. What to pack? If you're heading to Arctic Norway on the Northern Lights hunt, then packing the right gear isn't just a good idea, it's essential. Northern Norway in the winter can be bitterly cold, and on a Northern Lights hunt, you're going to be standing still in the cold for potentially hours. Dress in warm, breathable layers. Start with thermal underwear, then add a thick jumper or fleece, finishing with a windproof and waterproof outer layer. Don't forget insulated gloves, a woolly hat, and thermal socks. Good winter boots are a must, preferably waterproof with good grip. A torch or headlamp with red light mode, hand warmers, and a tripod are all good ideas too, especially the tripod if you're hoping to take photos. And of course, pack your patience. Aurora watching involves a lot of standing around. Do check the weather forecast before you head out on a Northern Lights tour. Just remember you're likely to be traveling a long way from your destination on one of these tours, sometimes several hours inland. And if you are heading inland, remember it's likely to be much colder than where you're coming from. The same is true on cruise ships, which are constantly moving location, and you have a significant wind chill factor to add into any temperature forecast that you might see, especially when sailing. Now, speaking of traveling by sea, Northern Lights cruises. Regular viewers will know that I've taken more than my fair share of Northern Lights cruises, and I do recommend them if you really want to see the aurora. However, please do your research. I've taken several Northern Lights cruises and I have always seen the Northern Lights at sea. Now, they haven't always been the best displays, but the 3 or 4 very best aurora displays I've ever seen have all been at sea. Why? Well, it's mainly down to mobility. Ships can sail away from bad weather and into clearer skies, something you just can't do if you're staying in a fixed location on land. Being far away from towns and cities also means zero light pollution, giving you a pitch dark sky ideal for aurora viewing. Plus, there's something incredibly special about watching the Northern Lights dance across the sky while you're gliding silently through an Arctic fjord. If you're open to it, a cruise can be one of the most magical ways to experience the aurora in Norway. Just be prepared, you will need to spend time outside in the freezing cold rather than enjoying another cocktail at the bar or what the midnight buffet has to offer. Set some time aside and make the most of this opportunity. Watch this video next to see my experience of seeing the Northern Lights from a ship in Northern Norway and why the aurora wasn't actually the standout attraction of that trip. And as always, thank you for watching.